Now we get into physical challenge. The physical demands of battle encompass more than being fit. And these demands influence both the leader and the led. The effects of sleep deprivation, poor diet, poor hygiene, and most importantly, fear have to be understood and be a part of everyday training. No one is immune to fatigue. As Marines become increasingly tired, they may lose the ability to make rapid decisions and are susceptible to being confused, disoriented, and ultimately ineffective. Guts and pride are not a substitute for fitness. And one place where that becomes completely evident is in mixed martial arts, where you get guys, they got a lot of guts and they got a lot of pride, and you think, oh, this person's never going to tap. And once they get broken down and fatigue sets in, fatigue makes coward of us all, right? It's not a substitute. So guts and pride are not a substitute for fitness. They're a good augment to fitness, but they don't take the place of it.
Yeah.
A leader relying on guts and pride will not be able to fully concentrate on the mission or the task at hand. Exact limits of endurance cannot be determined, but physical conditioning is one method of reducing the effects of physical exertion, and it can increase individual self-confidence and reduce stress. So I always tell people to work out. That's why you got to get up and go, because it increases individual self-confidence. It reduces stress. Reduces the effect of physical exertion. It's just good. So many benefits.
Yeah, and that's most important is that it reduces the effects later. So, if you're in shape, your heart's strong, your mind is strong because you've worked out your whole life or just you're just into fitness, you perform. There was this, I heard this thing where it was an article where I read where it said, well, why exercise is the most important part of business. And the whole thing was, it said a lot, but the whole thing was exercise is the only thing that affects every other part of your life. The only thing. So you can have all these other traits and sure, they might affect one thing. Most things don't affect anything. They just affect that one thing. Like if you have money, you go, okay, you have money and that affects like X, Y, Z. But exercise will affect your ability to make money. It'll affect your relationship. It'll affect everything. And it's the one thing that does.
Break out your jump rope, people. Get out your kettlebells.
Right.
Time to get it on.
Yeah. That's why if you ever get in a relationship where the girl's like, oh, you put the gym or jujitsu or something before me, that's a red flag.
Red flag.
Yep. Red flag. I'm not saying break up with her. I'm saying that's a red flag.
It is a warning.
Yes.
It is a warning. It's some friction.
That's some friction for sure.
Some friction. The physical development, back to the book, the physical development of Marine leaders must include dealing with the natural fear of interpersonal violence, which contributes significantly to the fog and friction of combat. Dealing with the fear of interpersonal violence. So I talked about this with Sam Harris, and that is if you're, one of the worst things that happens when somebody gets assaulted, if they've never had somebody on them, grinding on them before and grabbing them and holding them and smashing them, they've never had that feeling before, they're already way behind.
Right.
They're way behind because they're just not used to it. It's completely new to them.
Yeah.
Whereas, obviously, someone that trains in martial arts, like jiu-jitsu, where you're getting ground on and people are smashing you, and you're used to it.
Yeah.
It's part of your deal. It's part of your life.
Man, and you've been in actual firefights, but that's why getting some sort of a gun training or firearms training is good, because if you've never shot a gun before and you fire it, watching movies and stuff does not prepare you for how loud that is and like just the impact on your whole thing, when you fire a gun. So if that were to happen in some stressful situation, someone attacks you or someone fires a gun in your presence and it's, this commotion, just dealing with the fact that a gun was fired alone is like this huge battle that you
Yep.
essentially lost because you're just not used to it. That's
Yeah.
a hit,
You need to inoculate yourself to these situations.
Yeah.
And we will actually be talking about that a little later tonight.
Yeah, man.
Units and their leaders that do not have the mental and physical strength to overcome fear will not be able to fight effectively and overcome friction. In fact, one of the greatest sources of friction is physical exertion, and it may be required of individuals, units, or both. And again, the physical exertion thing, we do at the gym, we do Shark Tank, right? So a guy's got a fight coming up or a guy's got a tournament coming up, and so we put them in the middle, and they're getting fresh guys, every 2 minutes, 1 minute, sometimes 4 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, depending on what they're going into. But you can watch and see a total destroyer of a guy after they reach that breaking point, just get mopped up. And again, we're taking them there for a reason. We're taking them there so they do have to rely on their technique. And so they do get conditioned and inoculated against that breaking point. So they learn how to dig even deeper.
Yeah.
But you can get anyone there. I mean, you can get anyone so physically exhausted that they're no longer capable of, doing even the slight percentage of what they would normally be capable of. So you have to maintain that conditioning at the highest level all the time that you can.
And that's really, like you're saying, it's not just the physical conditioning. You're conditioning them to the situation, like how you said when they're beyond their physical kind of breaking point where they don't have all their strength. The point where you feel like stopping, going beyond that point. If you've rarely or never been beyond that point, once you get there, you're completely done.
Yeah.
And
but once you realize that you can push through that, and that there's a little more that you think there is, you get conditioned to it and you're ready for it.
Yeah.
The gain in moral force deriving from all forms of physical training is an unconscious gain. And I actually think it's not just an unconscious gain. I think it's a conscious gain too. I think when I train, I feel better. I feel stronger. I feel sharper. Willpower, determination, mental poise, and muscle control all march hand in hand with the general health and well-being of the individual. So, again, according to the Marine Corps, that this physical training increases your willpower, your determination, your mental poise, your muscle control. Clearly, as you stated earlier, physical training is important across the board